Detroit Lions fans, Detroit Den 313 back with another episode. Hey, before we get going, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Helps the channel out tremendously. And it's free. And it's free. So Steve, set the table. What are we doing here?
Also, real quick, on today's live show, we gave a little update on what we're going to do with our next giveaway. I already know someone's going to comment. I already know who exactly that person is, and we'll deal with it as it comes. But when we get to 100 members, we're going to do some more jersey giveaways, some gift card giveaways, some gift cards to maybe Rally House, Fanatics, maybe throw in some dinner cards here and there for you and your significant other. 100 members. There is always a link in our description to click that and become a member, or do it on a desktop or laptop is the best way I know how. But it's time to get back to the roots. We're going to talk some draft stuff today, what my opinion of the best course of action is for the draft. We're almost 2.5 weeks away, so it's getting to be that time. We're going to start diving back in, talk about some prospects, talk about what we think Brad Holmes should do in the draft on April 24th. So, but yeah, 2.5 weeks from now. So, Will, what do you think is the best course of action that Brad Holmes should do in a couple weeks here when it's draft night?
I don't know, man. Depends on how the board falls. It depends on what happens. You know what I mean? As far as like who's selected where, is the board going with these quarterbacks? Where is the Abdul Carters and the Shedeur Sanders? Like, where are they going? Where are they falling? Because if a bunch of quarterbacks, like last year, we talked about last year, we said, hey, listen, if a bunch of these quarterbacks go, then this board is going to look substantially different than if they don't go. So, I mean, really, that's what it's going to boil down to. But I think today we're looking at potentially if the quarterbacks go early, and there's a lot of the guys that we like as far as personally, and the guys that we think that the Detroit Lions should like, and as far as defensive tackles and edge rushers, then maybe we trade back because there's so many of those guys available. So I think today we're going to look at if those guys, are there, and we trade back.
So me personally, usually when it's draft time, I'm super aggressive. Like, hey, go up, move up, trade third round pick, go up and get player X, move up 10 picks, get that guy, whoever it may be. This year, I don't think Brad is staying put at pick 28. I think there is going to be a trade. He's most likely going to move up. I don't know. That's just what he's done in the past. I've only seen him move back in the draft one time when we took Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe he just didn't want him at pick 6, thought he could get him at pick 12. Obviously he did. But when I look at this draft, it's just loaded. If you just break these players down into tiers for me, and that's what I've been doing, is who do I think is going to be in that pick 30 to 40 range, and then pick 60 to 65, who's going to be available in that range. If the Detroit Lions can somehow move back from pick 28, but stay somewhere in the early to mid 30s and gain another pick from that team moving up going forward, and we have 4 picks in the first 102, that is the route I would like to take. I think if you do that and you get 4 picks in the top 102, you can add 2 defensive starters, you can add a wide receiver, you can add your guard, your safety, whatever you want. I think just moving back just gives Brad Holmes more options. Well, what do you think about that?
I think there's a potential there, but I just don't know what exactly that looks like. So do you have a team in mind that you would be willing to trade with?
I was doing some mocks earlier, and I do PFN, Pro Football Network. They have a mock draft simulator. You do PFF, and I do think that one is better, but I don't have that Will Ford money. I can't give money to PFF, and my money stays in my pocket. Will, it doesn't go to PFF, but it is a better simulator. I'll give you that. But if you don't have a subscription to PFF, I believe you can only do 3 rounds. So if I'm talking 4 picks, and I need to have a little bit more ammunition, so PFF, up your game, and maybe you'll add another guy who's on your site and more traffic coming your way. But I look at teams like the Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, who are all in the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are all in those early 30s in the second round. I mean, take your pick. I think either one of those teams would be good trade partners. I think all of those teams need pieces, so they still have their first round pick, and then if a team like New York, Cleveland, depending on what they do, or New York in the first 5 picks, if they need another quarterback, and I thought it was pretty interesting that Jalen Milroe is attending the draft. Usually that's for people who are getting drafted in the first round. So if someone knows something on Jalen Milroe and why he's going to be at the draft, maybe he's sitting there at pick 28 and the team wants him. Maybe the Cleveland Browns take Abdul Carter and they want to come back into the first round and get that quarterback with the 5th-year option. I look at the Lamar Jackson, some situation like that. And I get that 33, 34 from them, and it gives me my plan. Will, I'm one happy camper. I'm smiling ear to ear.
Yeah, no, I dig it, man. I get it. I know that I've said it before. Pittsburgh Steelers had their owner, Mike Tomlin was there. The quarterbacks coach was there. Coach Tomlin had the kids there, friends, family.
That when you say there, you're talking about
at Jalen Milroe's pro day.
Okay, just
all those guys were there. Yeah, all those guys were there. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have been a team that's really interested in Jalen Milroe. So I think that's really what it boils down to. He does have a potential to go in the first round, whether it's warranted or not, I guess.
Well, do you think it's warranted?
Do I think Jalen Milroe is warranted to go in the first round?
Yeah,
100%. I do. I think that when you have a strong live arm and you run a 4.3, I think it's a reason to have a conversation about you going in the first round. And then I took the time to look at the pro days of Lamar Jackson, the pro days of Jalen Hurts, and the pro day of Jalen Milroe, and I didn't see any reason why Jalen Milroe shouldn't be in the conversation. I watched Lamar Jackson overthrow people, underthrow people, and have some struggles at his pro day, and we've seen what he's done in the league. So I'm not here to say that Jalen Milroe is Lamar Jackson, but he's athletic and a live arm enough to have a conversation about being in the first round. And I would say that when I think about Jalen Milroe, I look at it like this. No different than AR-15. If that dude can get into a situation to where he's with a franchise that isn't turning him over the keys immediately, I think he's got a chance. If he goes to a franchise that just say, hey, listen, here's the keys to Ferrari, I think he's going to be in trouble. So that's the bottom line. But I've watched Jalen Hurts run around the league and set the league on fire with his feet, and Jalen Hurts ran a 4.5. I've watched Justin Fields run around the league and set the league on fire with his feet and questionable throwing ability, and he ran a 4.4. Jalen Milroe ran a 4.3. He's got a different level of speed and athleticism, and he's got a live arm. So, yeah, I can 100% understand why he's going to be at the draft, and somebody may send a flyer and try to get him in the first round.
I just personally don't look at Jalen Milroe and think first-round talent, but I'm a Detroit Lions fan, so if another team thinks that he is and they're picking ahead of us, it's a win-win for me. So it's a similar situation to what we were talking about last year when we were talking about Bo Nix and Michael Penix. Like, we didn't know if they would go in the first round, and they went in the top. I think both of those guys ended up in the top 15, if I'm not mistaken. So what that did, slid another player to the Detroit Lions. I just don't know. Like, I know we're not a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, but just looking at it, and I just don't see how Mike Tomlin could keep Jalen Milroe off the field week one. Like, would you rather have Jalen Milroe or Mason Rudolph? Like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a Jalen Milroe lover. I think he's better than Mason Rudolph. I think Mason Rudolph is only the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback right now because they couldn't get the deal done with Aaron Rodgers. So when I'm looking at their depth chart of Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, if they drafted Jalen Milroe, I think he's going to be their day one starter. Like, I think Mike Tomlin's a phenomenal coach. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. And I've already started to hear and see some things that he's getting on the hot seat with Pittsburgh Steelers fans. So, hey, if he wants to go out and make a bold move, and maybe this is a splash and buys him some more time or whatever he thinks is necessary to get a young quarterback, and hey, all for it, because it helps the Detroit Lions out. So, hey, draft Jalen Milroe. I think he's the greatest quarterback in the world. I think Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers should definitely draft him because it just helps the Detroit Lions out.
I will say that just because Mason Rudolph maybe isn't as good as Jalen Milroe or has as much potential, sometimes the responsible thing to do is not throw him into the fire when he's not ready. So Coach Tomlin is one of those coaches, man, that I look to and I just look at and I respect, even though he isn't a Detroit Lions coach. This is a guy who went a bazillion years without missing the playoffs. He's just been a phenomenal coach. So I think that if he does select him, he'll have a plan in place, and he's never been a guy historically that's rushed a quarterback out there. So I don't know, man. I think that it remains to be seen, but if they do select him, they'll have a plan and they'll figure it out because, hey, the Pittsburgh Steelers and their franchise have had the success that they've had over these years because they're not idiots.
He rushed Kenny Pickett out there. Kenny Pickett was trash. Can I ask you a personal question?
Shoot it.
I mean, it's not that personal. How old's little Will?
6.
Better quarterback than Mason Rudolph.
Interesting.
I'd play him week 1 over Mason Rudolph. Like, I don't know. Like I said, not a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Don't give two shits what they do. But if they want to draft Jalen Milroe and we can slide a Shamar Stewart or Michael Williams, and it just slides them further and further toward that range where Brad Holmes is comfortable trading up. And I'm just using those players as examples. I'm not saying that that's what the Detroit Lions should do. I've given you my plan. I want to move back and add another pick. So, hey, more power to them. Go ahead and do it. But I don't know. I don't know if Pittsburgh is the perfect fit, but I do think that they're one of the favorites to land in because they do look very, very interested.
For sure, man. So set the table. What we doing?
Like I said, Will, I'm just looking at different options for the Detroit Lions. If I can trade back in this draft and I can have my options between my very first pick being Derek Harmon or boy from Michigan, Kenneth Grant, and I can take them with my first pick. And then in round 2, if I can get a defensive end and I have that extra pick that I acquired in a draft in a trade to move back, if I can get a wide receiver, and then at pick 100, if I can get my safety, Jonas Sanker, like that's just where my mind's at. That's just what I'm thinking. Like we're not trying to do a mock draft. I could easily put up the one that I did earlier, but I don't want to do another mock draft show. Like I love doing them, but I don't like doing them once a week. I just like to talk about some options. So what would your options be? I mean, with just off the top of your head, without knowing for sure who's there, if you had 4 top 100 picks, who would be some guys you'd be looking at?
4 top 100 picks. I don't know, man. It has to make sense. So if I got 4, obviously I traded out of the first round is what I'm understanding.
Yes.
My belief is Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon are not available. Those are 2 first round guys, I think. So so if I'm trading out of the first round and I'm at pick 33, I'm assuming 33, 34, 35, I'm now into picks like Landon Jackson, Josiah Stewart, Talik Williams, TJ Sanders, Shamar Turner. I'm in that frame of guys. Darian Porter. Those are the guys that I'm kind of looking at that point. And then maybe even a Walter Nolan. He's not a guy that I necessarily want because of the character issues. But if you start to get into a realm to where you're in the second round and he's slid because of the issues that he's had, does the talent make you say, okay, this is a first round talent that I'm getting as a second round pick? Do I have to make the move because my culture is already set in place? And now I'm going to bet that my culture can make sure that he toes the line because of where we're at as a team. So, I mean, those are the guys, honestly, that I would be looking at, but it's all contingent on what's going on with that trade back position. But yeah, if I'm trading out of pick 28 and I'm going to pick 33, 34, 35, those are the guys that I would be looking at.
I'm with you. I don't really have anything else tonight. You got anything?
Not off the top of my head, man. It's just looking at. So then at that point, then you got your pick at pick 34. So now you're talking about what? Pick 60, pick 65, pick 102, pick 130. That's what you would have. So essentially, so you get out of the first round. You're looking at a couple of picks in the 60s, probably a pick in the 30s, and then 102 and 130 would be where you would be drafting. There's all types of guys across that board. You got the Antoine Powell Rylands. You got your guy, which has been mock drafting later, and Ty Robinsons and stuff like that. You got the Jordan Phillips of the world. It's just the Jordan Birches. There's just a lot of guys that can be in that window. One guy that we haven't talked about is Chris Paul. He's another one that the Lions actually did do a visit with at the combine, and is a guy who flies around the field at the linebacker position. So there is a lot of guys that are available, and I do think that it gets similar as you get back in the draft. But to me, those are all reasons why you take somebody, you take somebody and you get aggressive at that pick 34 or 33, and you take somebody that you really feel like is going to be a dude for you. And then maybe even if we trade back and we get that extra pick, we could clump that in together and to move back up into that second round and to make something happen. So just because we trade back in a draft doesn't mean we can't trade up into that second round either. So, I mean, literally the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I mean, if we added one more extra pick, I've said that I don't think Brad Holmes is drafting 7 players, so I damn sure don't think he's going to draft 8. So yeah, I mean, maybe you do something with, your 4th round pick and you move up again in the 2nd round, or you package 5 and 7 and you move up in the 3rd. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of options. I just want to leave this draft with 2 starters on defense and an impact player on either offense or maybe in the secondary, or a backup offensive lineman. But if you give me 2 solid defenders in my first 2 picks or anywhere in the draft, and you add those 2 other things, like, I'm more than happy. I don't think we have any real glaring needs. Our biggest need is just getting healthy. So I'm not going into this draft pounding on the table and saying, I need this player, I need this position. Like, just get me some players who can make some impacts in this draft, and I'm more than thrilled.
Are you getting off of your trenches? You're
No. It's just when do you get them for me? Like, I did a draft earlier and I took a wide receiver in the 2nd round because I had another pick to go get Jordan Birch or a Josiah Stewart. Like, just trading back, I think, just gives you some options where I'm still getting 4 players, as long as it's 2 defenders and in an offensive weapon. Like, where you get them doesn't matter. I just got to let this thing play out. So even on night 1, like, if Brad Holmes did something crazy and he stayed at pick 28 and he took Matthew Golden or Isaiah Bond, like, I'd be like, okay, like, I'm curious, I'm interested, didn't really see it coming, but maybe he's going to work some magic in round 2 and he's going to do what we're talking about and trade up and go get 2 defenders in day 3. So, or day 2. So I don't know. We just got to let this thing play out, because I'm trying to prepare people for Brad Holmes just throwing a curveball, because I think he does that better than everyone, where everyone thinks we know what he's going to do. And then he does something just, whoa, hey, what's he do with Jack Campbell at pick 18? You could have got him in round 2. Like, we don't know what he's thinking. So if he takes a wide receiver, maybe day 2, he's just going to absolutely dominate the day and maneuver it like an absolute chess master. So we'll just have to wait and see and be patient.
Yeah, and then your guy is your guy, man. I think sometimes we get caught up in, like, hey, Jack Campbell was a person that we could have got in round 2. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but maybe you don't have a pick in that falls in a potential where he could be. A guy that I've been saying that I like is Landon Jackson. Landon Jackson is a guy that I don't think he's the guy that you draft at pick 28. I don't think that he's the guy that you draft probably even at pick 33, 34, or 35. I think there's some guys that can impact your team a little bit better at that point. But I also don't think he's a guy that's going to be available at pick 60. So if your guy doesn't fall necessarily where the best value is at a certain selection, that doesn't mean it's not your guy. So yeah, maybe Jack Campbell would have been available later on in the draft, but would he have been available the next time the Lions made a selection? I think that's why ultimately Brad drafts his guys. He grades his guys out. He looks at his team. He sees where a guy is going to fit on his team, and he selects those guys, and he doesn't care where he gets them. Hey, listen, maybe you got a value on running back at a certain spot. We feel like our team needs a running back that's dynamic. We draft Gibbs where we draft him and don't give a darn. You know what I mean? And then he gets on the field. He fits our team, and he's dynamic. It's the same way with the rest of these guys. So I think the bottom line is it's not it doesn't matter as much what number the pick is, where the pick is. It's more about, do you fit the Detroit Lions? So I think there's a bunch of guys in this draft that fit the Detroit Lions. We're going to select guys that fit the Detroit Lions and fit all of the characteristics that are Detroit Lions guys. And when we do that, we're going to have continued success.
Let me ask you a hot question.
Shoot it.
Draft night, what do you think would get Detroit Lions fans in an absolute frenzy the most? What position or player, however you want to spin it, but what do you think would just really ruffle the feathers of Detroit Lions fans the most?
Drafting a receiver.
You think so?
Yeah, if we drafted a receiver in the first round, I think people would freak out. And, you know, if that's night 1, then for sure. Or if we go through pick 28 and pick 60 and we haven't got an edge rusher yet, people are going to be freaking out. They're going to be losing their mind. But it's not off of the table, because the bottom line is this. Brad Holmes has said that he feels like we're deep at D-line. We're deep. So, and he feels like that we had a Super Bowl caliber team last season, and we're bringing back virtually the same D-line. We didn't have Zadarius Smith at the beginning of the season. He felt like he had a Super Bowl roster before we went out and got Zadarius Smith. We got Zadarius because of Aiden Hutchinson going down. Aiden will be back. So there's no guarantee that we're going to go out and get an edge rusher. I don't know that they necessarily believe that we need one. Now, has he said that he wouldn't mind having a bunch of them because those are premium positions and he would like to have as many as he can? He said that. but he hasn't given us any guarantee that he's going to go out and draft an edge rusher. Right, so the bottom line is this: Aleem McNeil, he's not going to be ready for well into the season. Could be seeing us draft a defensive tackle. That would also make sense. Hey, there's some potential holes in our offensive line, depending on how you feel about Mr. Glasgow. And we don't know exactly what Christian Mahogany is because we've only got a sample size of him. What's Giovanni Manu? What is he? What isn't he? We still don't know. So we could easily be drafting a Zabel or a Tyler Booker. And I mean, there's so many different possibilities, but is there a path for us to trade back, which is what I'm talking about today or what we're talking about today? Yeah, there's definitely a path for it. There's a path. Brad sees a guy that he absolutely loves and we trade up and we go get our guy. There's a path for that too. So to me, if you trade back, there's an abundance of people that you could trade back, get an extra pick, and it makes sense. But my mindset is this, Steve, and this will be the sauce that I leave and I stand on. We have a financial issue in Detroit, and I don't think that it's anything bad or anything unmanageable. But as you get home runs in a draft, and by home runs, I mean down to guys like Malcolm Rodriguez, you're drafting guys in the 6th round who get lots of reps on the field. You're getting guys that get on the field and contracts that are, listen, you got the best tight end in the league in the 2nd round. You're hitting on your draft picks. As you do that, yeah, maybe he was a 2nd round pick, but he wants to get paid like the best tight end in the league, and he deserves to. That's $20 million a season if other guys are getting 19. So you got to pay these guys. How do you manage that? Well, the first way you manage it is managing how many guys that you're bringing in. You know what I mean? So if I'm only bringing in a certain amount of guys as this thing goes, then it would make sense to go do it. So I would foresee Brad is going to select guys that he believes can contribute to this team. And I'm with you. I don't think that he's going to bring 7 guys, 6 guys into this team trying to make this team when he knows that the bill is coming. Right. So whether he trades back or he trades up, even if he trades back, he's going to trade back. He's going to go get a couple of dudes, and then everybody else is just going to be to compete through training camp. I apologize. And then we're going to see some dudes get cut, man. It's not going to be like the years past to where everybody that's drafted 6th, 7th rounders are making this team and they're competing for positions. We're going to see a situation where we're like the New England Patriots, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, where those 6th, 7th round picks are guys that end up on practice squads or end up cut because our roster's so good.
Yeah, I think even the handful of times Ennis Rakestraw was healthy, like he couldn't even get on the field, and he was a 2nd round pick. Like we just had depth at that position last year, and he couldn't find his way on the field. It was nothing against his play or anything like that. It was mostly injuries and just opportunity. They just didn't line up. So I think you're right. I just think the magic number for this draft is probably 5 players. I don't know why. Just a number I picked. I don't have any logic or thought behind it. Just I look at the number 7, and I'm with you. I just don't see 7 brand new players going into training camp. I think you're just hey, the last 2 guys, good luck making this team. Like you're probably not going to make it. So if I'm Brad Holmes, I'm just going to say, maybe I just package something together and I just leave this draft with 5 players, whoever that is. And I think you could hit 5 home runs. You could hit 5 really, really good players who could potentially impact the team in whatever way, offense, defense, or at least at the minimum, maybe even special teams. So I don't know. Just 5's the number I have in mind. We have 7. If we're trading back, we're adding 8. I'm curious to see what Brad's going to do and maneuver this draft, but I don't know. I just don't see a draft pick at pick 28. Usually I can say, oh yeah, I can see this happening, but this draft's just so deeper than most drafts that I've seen defensively, especially. So I just don't think he's picking at pick 28. But that probably means he's going to move up into the top 10. Will, like, who knows? We'll just have to wait 2 more weeks and see. And Steve Perkins will just be like, oh, yeah, just another curveball that Brad Holmes threw us. So that's what I'm sitting back and waiting on. Anything else for tonight?
That's all I got, man.
Stick around, hit that like button. Don't forget, think about becoming a member. We'll be back later with another show.
Peace.